If you've ever had to fight the battle of losing fat, of trying to lose weight, and having a really hard time doing it, then this podcast is for you. Thank you for joining me. My name is Aaron Shaw. I am your host and I am your advocate for an extended health span. And in this weekly podcast, I try to simplify the science and evidence of longevity and health span into simple, easy to understand steps. And specifically, I want to make sure that everybody has one action item they can take away from the episode and start implementing today in their life. So, today we are going to talk about losing weight. We know that the majority of Americans, as of today, are either overweight or obese. And the Centers for Disease Control, I think in 2022, said that around 73% of Americans fit into this category. And that is a concern for those of us that want an extended health span and longevity, because there are consequences, metabolic consequences, lifespan consequences for those that are overweight or obese. And one thing that I'm going to talk about today that I am so sick and tired of are fads. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried and failed a diet? Have you ever followed a diet and it just didn't work for you? Or have you tried to follow a diet and you couldn't sustain it, whether that was high carb, high protein, low protein, various delivery meals, tried smoothies, or an infinite number of other variables to lose weight or lose fat, and it didn't work for you? Well, I want to give you credit, because if you've tried to lose weight through changing your diet, not once, not twice, but maybe 3 times or maybe 4 times over your lifespan. But I've had clients that have said the word dozen, like dozens of times they've tried to stick to a diet to lose fat and lose weight, and it hasn't worked. Well, I got to give you super kudos, because that shows a level of resilience that few people have. If you're capable of trying something, having it not work for you, having it not succeed for you, but picking yourself up, trying something different, that is huge. But in a lot of these nonsense fads, nonsense nutrition and weight loss fads, there's a big point that's being missed. And what I want to do is give everybody permission for the next month to not change a thing that you're eating. So you may be able to easily identify that you should stop eating so much fried food or fast food or sodas, whatever it is. If you realize like you've tried to do that a bunch of times and it hasn't worked, fine. Don't even worry about it for the next month. But I am going to give you something that is going to help you take control of your body composition. And I'll tell you as an example how this worked for one of my clients, Kat. She's in her late 50s. And when I first started working with her, she wanted to lose some weight and she wanted to feel better and have more energy. And she was clearly scarred and traumatized from feeling like a failure over trying other diets in the past that haven't worked. And it is such a bummer to have somebody who's so motivated and passionate about trying to maintain their health, trying to improve their health, and yet to feel like a failure. So what we did right from the start is eliminated the concept of diet. Forget about it. Instead, we agreed that for at least the first month or first couple of months, we weren't going to talk about diet or nutrition. And instead, we were going to focus on an amazing tissue that literally consumes fat while you sleep, literally consumes fat while you're sitting on the couch. And this amazing tissue is muscle. We agreed to take the first month or two and jumpstart the fuel burning machine that we call muscle. It was time for a different approach. If you are someone who is struggling to achieve what you believe is your ideal body weight and you feel that you have excess fat, then take pause on what you're doing. Certainly take pause if you're on some sort of crash diet, and just think about what it would be like to have within you a system that burns more fat, and it is completely natural, no pills, not even no ancient herbs or supplements. So instead of trying to quit or cut or sacrifice, we're going to add something new. We're going to add muscle. So forget macros, forget what you eat and drink. What we're going to talk about here is giving you a 1-month program to follow that will develop the machine that is going to be burning fat and burning excess sugar in your body. One of the great things about having more muscle is that it burns more fuel that you consume. So instead of eating something and your body storing it, meaning it typically stores it as fat if we're not going to use it, it will burn it. It will utilize fat, because fat in essence is energy. It's just stored energy. It's energy that we get from our food. And if we don't use that energy in a reasonable amount of time, your body's going to save that for later. But it's going to keep saving that for later until there's a reason to use that fuel. And unless you have muscle, there's really no reason to use that fuel. So we keep it, we store it, we accumulate it right around our midsection or around your upper arms or wherever else your body is prone to storing this excess fat. It is going to store it thinking that you may need it at a future time. Well, that future time is now. So we're going to develop muscles to help burn this excess energy storage. Muscles also help us improve our ability to regulate blood sugar levels. And this is, again, a huge concern across the country where there's a rise in type 2 diabetes. And that is when there's a resistance to insulin. And this can be addressed through having extra muscle, because similar to muscle utilizing fat as an energy source, muscle will also consume sugars, glucose as a fuel, and that will help regulate our insulin levels. Strength training is also great for improving bone density. Strength training leads to better posture, joint health, improves your cardiovascular health. So ultimately, when people have more muscle, they have increased longevity, increased quality of life, a broader health span, and they can literally engage in life and enjoy it more than those who have less muscle. Basically, having more muscle is a bigger engine that you can use as you wish. But I will also acknowledge that strength training can be intimidating to some people if you're not accustomed to doing it. So what we're going to talk about today is one exercise routine. This is going to be one activity, but I want you to commit to engaging with this activity for 1 month. And I'm going to spell it out, and this is going to be in as simple, repeatable terms as we can possibly get to get the benefit of starting to develop more muscle in our bodies. This is going to be 4 exercises, and these 4 exercises you're going to do every 3 days for a month. 4 exercises every 3 days for 1 month, and you are going to be literally developing the machine that is going to consume our stored fat while we're sleeping, while we're watching TV, while we're sitting at our desk. The 4 exercises are as follows. Number 1, a squat. So this would be, you don't have to put a barbell over your back if that's not something you're accustomed to doing. You could use dumbbells and imagine like you're picking up a suitcase in each hand. So kind of, again, squatting down like you're picking up a heavy bag off the floor. And instead of having a barbell over your back, you could be picking up dumbbells. If you have access to a gym, you may want to do a leg press machine instead of a squat, but either one of those are fine. The benefit of this particular exercise is that it really recruits a bunch of big muscles. So we want that. The second exercise is a bench press, and you could use either dumbbells or a barbell. The third exercise are glute bridges, and this is when you're going to be lying on your back with your feet flat on the floor, your knees are going to be bent, and you push down on the floor and hike that butt up off the floor. If you can do this exercise and you feel like it is super easy, great. Try doing it with a single leg. And if you do it with a single leg glute bridge, make sure that your pelvis doesn't sag as you're doing it. Because if your pelvis sags, that means you need to be doing 2-legged bridges. The fourth exercise is a dumbbell shoulder press from standing. So that's when you're standing up, you got a dumbbell in one hand, and you go from that dumbbell holding it up by your shoulder to pressing it straight up overhead and bringing it back down. That is a shoulder press, a dumbbell shoulder press. So we've got 4 exercises. We've got a squat, a bench press, a glute bridge, and a dumbbell shoulder press. These 4 exercises are going to be the key to starting a strength training program, a muscle growing program, a fat burning program, a weight loss program, whatever you want to call it. These 4 exercises are going to be the basis to get you started down this journey of developing more muscle. But there's more. What's really important, what we call dosing, how your dosing is going to be, meaning how many sets and reps are you going to do. So let's talk about that. First of all, before any exercise, any weightlifting, you're going to want to warm up. So this is a 5 or 10 minute brisk walk, for example. It may be doing a couple of jumping jacks if you feel comfortable doing that. It may be swinging your arms around for a few minutes if you feel comfortable doing that. Just something to kind of get the joints moving, the blood pumping a little bit. And then whenever you do any one of these exercises, the first set is just going to be a warm-up set. So you're going to pick a light weight or just do a couple of repetitions just to make sure it feels good. It may help you select the correct weight to use in upcoming sets. And the warm-up may help make sure that your form is where you want it to be. Once you're warmed up, we're looking at performing 3 sets of 8 repetitions of each exercise. That's 3 sets of 8. The effort level with these is what's probably the most important part. And this is what most people get wrong, unfortunately, not for lack of effort, but it's, or so to speak, it's not for lack of trying to do it correctly. But a lot of people that I work with are actually lifting weights that are a little bit too light. And so I think that there's if you're not familiar with weightlifting, it can feel a little bit intimidating. And if you haven't lifted any weights in a very long period of time or ever, it is perfectly fine and frankly preferred to take a week or two in sticking with weights that you feel like are a little bit below your total capacity. It's perfectly fine. When I work with my clients, if they're coming off a period of not working out for a while, I will have an actual like a 6-week block where what I call a preparatory phase, where we're just going through some of the motions, lighter weights, making sure that the movements feel comfortable, confidence builds, muscles slowly start to adapt, tendons slowly to start to adapt. Then after this preparatory phase, then we go into a more challenging phase of exercise. So cut yourself some slack the first week or so of doing this if you feel unsure, but the goal will be 3 sets of 8 reps with an effort that the last 2 repetitions of each set should feel very hard. Not so hard your form gets sloppy, not so hard your back is contorted, not so hard you feel any sort of tendon discomfort or discomfort at a joint. It should be hard because your muscles are working. That's it. No weird symptoms, no flare up of an old injury. It should just feel hard because your muscles are trying so hard to finish the motion. So after you do 3 sets of 8 repetitions of any exercise, you're going to rest for 1 to 2 minutes before going and repeating the same exercise. So you're going to do a set, rest for a minute or so, do another set, rest for a minute or so, and repeat so you have 3 sets of each exercise. As an alternative, if you are maybe short on time or you want to kind of hustle through this exercise routine a little bit faster, you can do what's called a superset. And that would mean you kind of alternate between an upper and lower body exercise at the same time. For example, you would do 1 set of squat, and then while you're resting your legs from the squat, you get on the bench and you do a bench press. And then while you're resting your shoulders and chest from the bench press, you go back and do another set of squats. And you kind of go back and forth until you get the full 3 sets for each one of those exercises. Then you would hop over and do the same thing with the shoulder press and the bridge. The key is to get in all 4 of these exercises in one workout session. What we're going to do is we're going to work through a 3-day cycle. One day you're going to lift, as I just described. The next day you're going to do some form of cardio. This could be a brisk walk, stationary bike, ride outside if the weather's great. It could be an erg, it could be a hike, it could be a really long walk with a dog. Something where you get your heart rate up for 15, 20, 30 minutes or more if you can. The 3rd day is a rest day. And that is your cycle. Lift, cardio, rest, repeat. Lift, cardio, rest. In doing this rotation, one thing we are not concerned about, just to recap, we are not concerned about what you are consuming for food. Don't even worry about it. If you feel like you should drink more water than you normally do, go for it. If you feel like you shouldn't change a thing, don't. Don't even worry about it. All we're doing is focusing our attention on stimulating our muscles. Hard stop. That's it. So by doing this for a month, that in total, that'll give you 10 days of strength training and 10 days of cardio and 10 rest days. To throw some numbers at you, if you're doing 3 sets of 8 for each exercise, that's 24 repetitions for each exercise per session. And when you put all of those exercises together, all 4 of those exercises, over the course of the month, that is 960 repetitions, muscle stimulating repetitions. So it's 4 exercises done again and again and again over the course of 1 month. But there is absolute real value in every single repetition you do. Every single repetition you do, as long as you've done it as I've described, is stimulating your muscles. And as those muscles get stimulated, they say, hey, I need some fuel because you keep asking me to do things. And where's it going to go? While you're exercising, it's going to pull some sugar out of your system. It needs that for like that immediate fuel. Great. That'll help regulate your blood sugar. Then when you're done working out and you're resting, muscles are still going to need fuel. Now the muscles are a little bit bigger perhaps. The muscles will have higher metabolic demands. So the muscles are going to look around and say, hey, we need some calories. I know we're just kind of kicking back watching Netflix, but I need some more calories. Where's it going to find those calories? It's going to find it in your fat, in your stored fat. We all have it. And if your experience is anything like my client, Kat, where we promise not to talk about any sort of nutrition stuff for the first month or so of working together, you will find that any sort of thought or any sort of intention around food, nutrition, hydration, supplements, all this other stuff eventually becomes important because you've established a strength, a muscle building program. It just happens over time. As you start doing these workouts and you start to feel more confident in yourself, as you build up the confidence in your physical capacity over the course of a month, it is more likely than not that you're going to want to start being a little bit more mindful about what you consume for nutrition. And although that is a whole other topic that I will talk in depth about in other episodes, I can tell you that little tiny steps in nutrition, tiny steps in nutrition, put on top of a base of muscle building exercise, and you are on the fast track. This is how it works. We're building the muscle. We're building a calorie consuming machine through your muscles. Your muscles are going to be burning through excess blood sugar. It's going to be burning through fat because it needs it as fuel, all without some sort of crazy, massive calorie cutting nonsense fad. And in my experience with my clients, it's a lot more sustainable to have a reasonable exercise routine and reasonable nutrition with expectations that are adjusted over a reasonable amount of time than it is for some too good to be true, drop crazy weight in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks, by cutting out all the things that you're so used to eating, so used to drinking, maybe replacing it with something that you're completely unaccustomed to consuming, and dealing with that dramatic change in your food intake. So if you too are sick and tired of the fads, then give this a shot. 1 month, 4 exercises, 3 sets of 8 repetitions each exercise. Throw in a cardio every 3rd day. Throw in a rest day every 3rd day. Repeat. And if you know somebody who's struggling with their weight and struggling with yo-yo dieting, please pass this episode on to them. If you or somebody you know are just interested in the concept of health span overall, then please subscribe to this. Also, if you'd like some more in-depth information, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter that I send out to my VIP coaching clients, where I dive a little bit deeper into all of these topics, including strength training, nutrition, sleep, hydration, and healthy habits. So until next time, thanks for listening. Cheers.